Some interesting word has been spreading recently regarding the upcoming Alien film from Fede Alvarez, which I guess at this point we're still calling Alien Romulus. The juicy tidbit is in the form of a general plot detail, revealing that this story will be taking place at some point between the events of the first Alien film and the sequel, Aliens. The source of this word has come from the Perfect Organism podcast, who during the last few weeks and months have been dropping little hints about the film on their social media accounts. Other news items they've posted include that Alien Romulus will connect to the original Alien trilogy and the prequel films. And much of the inspiration for the design of Alien Romulus is pulled from Alien and Alien Isolation. Also, one of the most enticing pieces of news they've dropped is that the new film will actually end up having a theatrical release, premiering on a yet-to-be-announced date. I would especially love to believe this piece of news, since nothing beats the in-theater experience of seeing a movie, regardless of how convenient streaming can be these days. Last year's Predator entry, Prey, would have been incredible to see on the big screen, with the big sound and with an audience. It's such a shame we never had that opportunity. But, once again, this is rumor control. Here are the facts. And the facts are that, technically, there are no facts. What you'll notice about all of these news items from Perfect Organism is that, technically, the source for all the news is, well, Perfect Organism. Unless it comes from an official announcement of some kind, or a trade publication, or straight from the mouth of a director or producer or writer, then at this point you'd still have to consider this news as rumor, not fact. Normally I wouldn't even talk about these kinds of details that are often baseless or misconstrued and usually make their rounds on the typical alien and science fiction pop culture media site rumor mills. But this is the Perfect Organism podcast. This is a dedicated team that lives and breathes all things alien and has touched base with many connected figures within the alien world. Lest we forget that it was only a month ago that they got the lowdown and dirty about the Alien vs. Predator anime series. In their interview with Joshua Izzo, they cemented the fact that it does exist and is complete and has yet to be released by Disney. So with no hesitation, I do consider the Perfect Organism to be a reliable source. Understandably, though, there is skepticism when it comes to their exclusives. Jamie of the podcast has responded directly to such skepticism, stating the following: "We cannot identify our sources at this time. We don't share anything nonchalantly. So you can take it all with a grain of salt, you can take it all with a healthy dose of skepticism, but I believe there to be veracity to all their reports. Recently on Twitter, AVP Galaxy, another trusted source and prestigious team for all things alien, have corroborated Perfect Organism's findings. Definitely not something to scoff at. And it would make sense, having a story post-alien and pre-aliens. Seemingly, we are done with the prequel territory. We've had Prometheus and Alien Covenant, we've heard all of the plans being made within that territory. Ridley Scott himself had claimed that the third film was already written by John Logan. But with Covenant's disappointing box office returns, and the lukewarm response from fans, not to mention the multi-billion-dollar acquisition of 20th Century Fox by Disney, those plans have changed. Disney may not know exactly what to do with the Alien franchise, but certainly just simply following up on a film that wasn't hugely successful was not in their plans of action. I think they want to approach this carefully. Much like with Prey, I think they want to visit familiar territory but offer something fresh and new, without being too drastically off-brand. It's a tough thing to do. It's a tightrope act. With fresh eyes from writer-director Fede Alvarez, I think we can get what they're looking for. And with Ridley Scott in the role as producer, I think he can input at least some of the ideas and concepts he had been considering post-Covenant and translate them into the new film. As stated by Perfect Organism, there will be connections to Prometheus and Covenant. They are not axing them from continuity. I think actually being able to work this into a post-Alien 1979 story instead of a pre-Alien 1979 story would end up being ideal. I think it's great that with Prometheus and Alien Covenant serving as prequels but still leaving a gap is perfect, because I always personally felt that the idea of a prequel leading directly and precisely into the moments before we see the Nostromo wasn't so great. So that seems to be off the table. If there's anything Scott really wanted from the other prequel concepts, they'll have to be more carefully and tactfully included in a timeline that now takes place after Alien. I like that quite a bit. Assuming the rumors are true, Alien Romulus will bring the franchise not into prequel or sequel, but the rare mid-quel territory, and I do believe there to be promise in that. I'm sure it was the last thing on James Cameron's mind when writing Aliens, but giving us such a big gap of time between movies allows such a vast opportunity for more stories to take place in between. Between the 57 years of Alien and Aliens, anything could happen, and with clever enough writing, it can be plausible without diminishing the events that follow. I actually don't think there's any better example of that than the story we got with Alien Isolation, the video game. Naturally, the idea of having a new movie take place within this timeline has a lot of people wondering, will this story have anything related to Alien Isolation in it? Is it even possible that the young actress they found for the lead, Kaylee Spaney, will be playing fan-favorite character Amanda Ripley? One way or another, I'd say you'd best be prepared for at least rumors about this, the closer we get to the actual release of the movie. If that is something they end up doing, I just hope they're straightforward with it. I hope they don't go with some tacky surprise reveal in the third act to the tune of, wow, the whole time this character was Ripley's daughter, what a twist. If you're going to do it, then do it, but be upfront about it, and don't treat it like some extremely clever thing. Just my opinion. But in the event that this is an Amanda Ripley story, would Alien Isolation the video game be considered canon? If so, would this also technically be a sequel to Alien Isolation, amongst everything else? Would the Dark Horse comics featuring Amanda Ripley be considered canon as well? The former I'd say possible, the latter probably not too likely. If one thing is true of the Alien franchise as it relates to its extended media, such as comics, is that the movies will always take precedent. We had a whole 3-year arc of Aliens comics from Dark Horse between 1988 and 1990, which served as a direct sequel to the second film. But by the time Alien 3 came out in 1992, those comics may as well have not even existed. Even as recently as Prey, which offered an answer to the mysterious Raphael Adolini pistol featured in Predator 2. Even though the Predator comics already had an answer years ago, which was ignored when it came to the movie. If they do go with an Amanda Ripley angle in Alien Romulus, I guess it's also possible that they could go with the general concept of Alien Isolation, but still ignore it story-wise and do their own thing, with their own Amanda Ripley story. I suppose that's alright, because there's not much sense in seeing a scene-for-scene adaptation of the video game. It would be nice to have something different and unpredictable. But I do think the beloved game deserves some reverence, so maybe an altogether different direction would be for the best. Personally, I'd prefer something altogether different. No Amanda Ripley, but different and new characters. I think that's the best way to go. Considering we have 57 years to play within, it still could go any number of ways. But how do you feel about it? What would you like to see explored in this setting? Comment below and share your thoughts. As always, I'd like to thank you very much for watching today. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with the latest videos from the channel and future news on the upcoming Alien film. For more, you can also follow me on social media, at alien_theory on Twitter and at alientheoryyt on Facebook and Instagram. And until next time, this is Alien Theory, signing off.